Hey guys, it's Jasma, and today we're making a chocolate bundt cake that is super moist and has a really dense chocolatey flavor. This chocolate bundt cake is so easy to make, and we're going to be drizzling it with 2 layers of chocolate ganache, which even brings out more chocolatey flavor, and it will also look really good. So let's get started. For the ingredients you will need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1½ cups of white sugar, 1½ teaspoons of baking soda, ½ teaspoon of salt, 1/3 cup of cocoa powder, 1 cup of unsalted butter, 1 cup of water, ½ cup of sour cream, 2 large eggs, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And for the chocolate ganache you will need 5 ounces of milk chocolate and 1/3 cup of heavy cream. For the white chocolate ganache you will need 3 ounces of white chocolate and 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Starting off in a large bowl, I'm going to mix together the dry ingredients. So I'm going to add in the all-purpose flour, add in the white granulated sugar, and the baking soda. And then we're just going to give this a good mix until it is all combined. Once everything is mixed through, we could move over to the stove. In a medium saucepan, add in the sticks of butter, and this does not have to be softened since we're going to melt it anyways. Now add in the water. This is just regular cold tap water. Also add in the cocoa powder and the salt. Now we're going to turn this on to medium heat. Now we're just going to stir this with a whisk until all the butter is melted and the cocoa powder dissolved into the water. Alright, the butter has melted and the cocoa powder has dissolved. Now I'm just going to keep stirring until this comes to a simmer. And I'm going to keep stirring constantly so the mixture doesn't burn. This has come to a simmer. You can see it has started to bubble, so we're just going to take this off the heat. Now I'm going to pour this into a clean bowl and let it cool down for about 5 minutes. Once this chocolate mixture has just cooled down slightly, I'm going to mix it with the dry ingredients. So I'm using a hand mixer today, but of course you could do it by hand or use a stand mixer if you want to. So I'm just going to add this all in all at once, but if you're doing this by hand, you want to add it in half at a time. It's going to make it a lot easier to mix. I'm going to use a spatula to scrape down the bottom to make sure everything is mixed through. You can see this mixture is very thick right now, but don't worry, we're going to be adding in some more ingredients to thin it out. So once again, scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl to make sure all the flour is mixed in. Now crack in 2 eggs, one at a time. Now I'm going to mix this egg through and then add in the second one. That is mixed in, so now crack in the second egg. Now mix in this egg as well. After both eggs are mixed in, again scrape down the bowl. You can see this batter has already thinned out. Alright, now we're going to add in the vanilla extract and the sour cream. And once again, just mix these ingredients together until combined. This sour cream is what's going to make this cake so moist, but if you don't have sour cream on hand, you could also substitute this with milk, buttermilk, or yogurt. But of course, I would suggest you to use sour cream. And then once again, scrape down the sides of the bowl and the bottom to make sure everything is mixed through. Once you made sure everything is mixed through, our batter is now finished. So I'm just going to set this aside. and we're going to prepare the Bundt pan. So I have a Bundt pan here. I have a metal one. They also sell silicone ones, which you could also use. And I also have some non-stick cooking spray. I'm just going to spray this whole pan with this so the cake doesn't stick to it once it's baked, and we could take it out of the pan without anything sticking. But of course, if you don't have some non-stick cooking spray, you could just also use melted butter or oil and brush it up the sides. Once the pan is nicely sprayed, we're going to pour in all of the batter. Now I'm going to bang this on the counter a couple of times to release any extra air bubbles and to settle it down and even it out to make sure that the cake rises evenly. Now we're going to place this into the oven preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes, or until when you insert a toothpick into the center and it comes out clean. The cake has come out of the oven. I'm going to test it by inserting a toothpick. And you can see it came out clean. That means it's done. So now I'm going to let it cool inside of the cake pan for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to flip it out onto a cooling rack. This Bundt cake has been cooling in the Bundt pan for about 15 minutes, and you want to make sure you do not let it stay in there for any longer because it would start to stick. So now we're going to flip it onto a cooling rack. Put the cooling rack right on top, and then just flip it over. I like to tap it a few times, and then it should come right off. Now prepare a baking tray which would catch all the drips of the chocolate ganache later on, and now we're going to place the cake right on top and set it aside for it to cool while we work on the milk chocolate ganache. So today we're going to be making two types of ganache. The first type is the milk chocolate ganache, and we're also going to be making a white chocolate ganache to be drizzling on top. So to make this chocolate ganache, pour the cream right over the chocolate. Now we're going to place this into the microwave for 45 seconds, let it sit for about a minute or so, and then stir it until it is nice and glossy. And now we're going to let it just sit on the countertop for about a minute, and the heat of the cream is going to melt the chocolate completely. And now we're just going to stir this until the cream and the chocolate are combined and it is nice and glossy. At first, it's not going to look like it's going to come together, but just keep stirring. The chocolate ganache is ready. You can see it pretty thick, but it's still pourable. And if you find your chocolate ganache being too runny, you could put it in the fridge for a couple of minutes for it to firm up just a little. And this has cooled down, so now we are ready to pour it over the cake. The chocolate ganache is ready, the cake is cooled, and again, it is very important that you have a tray on the bottom to catch the drips. And I'm just going to drizzle this all over the cake and cover it completely. After drizzling on the first layer of chocolate ganache, I scraped out the bottom and put it into another bowl. And now I'm going to drizzle on the second layer. And I'm only doing this so the chocolate covers the cake completely. You could drizzle on how many layers of chocolate ganache you like, as long as it covers up all of the cake. Now again, if you find your chocolate ganache being too runny and it's just running off the cake, you could put it into the fridge. Let the excess chocolate ganache drip off, and then I'm going to scrape the excess chocolate ganache that dripped off the cake into the bowl and then pour it over one last time. You do not have to drizzle the chocolate ganache over the cake 3 times. I'm just doing it so it covers the cake completely, but if you don't want to, you could just drizzle it 1 time and then move on to the next step. I've done 3 layers of the chocolate ganache ganache. The cake is now completely covered in chocolate ganache. Now I'm going to place this into the fridge for it to firm up and set while we work on the white chocolate ganache. For the white chocolate ganache, again, add the cream to the chocolate chips. And then to the microwave we go for another 45 seconds. And then we're just going to mix this until it is nice and smooth. The chocolate ganache has cooled down. As you can see, it's nice and thick. And this is going to make it a lot easier to drizzle since it won't just run down the sides. And I'm going to be using a regular piping bag to pipe out the chocolate ganache today, but of course you could just load it into a regular Ziploc bag. And today I'm not going to be using any piping tip, I'm just going to snip off a small tip. So I'm going to place this into a tall cup, which is going to make it a lot easier to fill. And then just fill up the bag. Alright, the chocolate ganache is ready, so now I'm going to take the cake out of the fridge. Snip off a tip, and then just start piping onto the cake. Once you're done drizzling the white chocolate ganache, give it a few taps for the excess to drizzle off and for it to settle into the cake. And now we could transfer this onto the serving platter. I'm going to be using an offset spatula. Okay. This chocolate Bundt cake is really soft, really moist, it has a really good texture, and it has a very dense chocolatey flavor. The outside layer of chocolate ganache is sweet, and it balances perfectly with the cake inside that is not as sweet. So it's a perfect amount of sugar. This chocolate Bundt cake really reminds me of a giant chocolatey donut, and it also tastes delicious. So I hope you can try this out. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.